An explosion lights up the early morning sky somewhere in rural Pennsylvania. We find Peter Parker in nothing but his boxer shorts, and we see him burying his trademark Spider-Man suit in the ground with his bare hands. A sense of panic overcomes Pete as he desperately thinks of Mary Jane, who's currently trapped in another dimension. But there's no time to dwell on it as sirens sound off in the distance and authorities move toward Peter's location. The only thing he takes with him before running off is a spider-shaped gadget. This device is what brought Peter here. In an alternate dimension, Spider-Man once encountered a villain named Benjamin Rabin, whose goal was to fuse with the Mayan god Wyatt. Spidey stopped him, but since then Rabin has plotted to get revenge on him and Mary Jane. He sent them to this alternate dimension where they were to be sacrificed to Wyatt. In this desolate reality, they meet Paul, a former student of Rabin, who helps them craft a device to return home. During a critical fight, Mary Jane selflessly uses the device to send Peter back, leaving herself stranded in this alternate dimension. But there's a problem. Every hour on the Earth where Peter landed could be days or weeks in MJ's dimension. That could mean death for Mary Jane. Peter has no choice but to go by foot, but his body just won't follow him. He's become too weak and too tired after his excursion in that alien dimension where MJ is currently marooned. He stumbles and nearly passes out by a hill, just barely eluding the police cars on their way to the site of the explosion. But there's no rest for Peter Parker. There's simply no time. He knows this, so he gets back on his feet and continues to move as the sun rises. Shortly after Peter discovers that he's in Pennsylvania, he steals some clothes and begins to make his way back to New York. Later, in uptown New York, Peter arrives at his Aunt May's apartment. In a panic, he asks the old woman what day it is, and when was the last time they talked. Peter can't believe it when he hears his Aunt May tell him that they saw each other just yesterday, because if his calculations were correct, Peter has been gone for a week, ever since he arrived in that other world. At that moment, Norman Osborn, Peter's very own arch-nemesis, steps into the room. He tells him that he's only there to check in on the Parkers, but Peter isn't having any of it. Norman tries to calm him down, but Peter shoves him out the room, and shoves him hard, before telling Osborn that he has no time to play his little mind games. In the end, Aunt May manages to stop Peter from doing any further harm to their visitor. But realizing that he has a mission to save MJ from that alien dimension, Peter rushes out of the apartment. He stops by his own pad first to grab one of his spider suits, knowing that swinging around the city would be much more convenient than going around on foot. Now clad in his trademark red and blue costume, Spider-Man arrives at the one place he knows that can help him retrieve MJ, the Baxter Building, home of the Fantastic Four. There he's greeted by the Thing and the Human Torch. The fiery Fantastic Four member tells him to slow down a bit, and Pete tells him what happened on that other Earth, about how MJ saved him from being sacrificed in a world-ending ritual using the same spider-shaped gadget he pocketed earlier in Pennsylvania. Peter tries to get into Reed Richards' lab to decipher the device, but the other two Fantastic Four members stop him and tell Pete that Captain America's looking for him. The wall crawler has his suspicions, but he wants to hear it straight from his friend's mouth, so he asks them what the Star-Spangled Avenger wants from him. The Human Torch tells Peter that he's currently a wanted fugitive, ever since cops found his spider suit in Pennsylvania. The two Fantastic Four members try to force Pete to stay in the Baxter Building until Cap can take him in for questioning, but he simply doesn't have the time to spare. So Pete puts on the mask and swings out of the place. As he makes his way along New York's rooftops, Spider-Man spots helicopters patrolling the area. He tells himself that if this were any other day, he would have agreed to going in for questioning. But this is no ordinary day. The longer he waits, the more at risk MJ is placed in that other dimension. To shake off the helicopters and any other law enforcement agents who might be tailing him, Spider-Man decides to take off the suit in an alley somewhere and get back in civilian mode. He desperately tries to think of a place where he can run tests on the gadget, but his thoughts are cut short when none other than Captain America spots him in that same dark alley.
Tough day.
You could say that.
I'm here to help.
I need T'Challa's lab, or Stark's, maybe both, and I need them now.
We can talk about that. but I've got half the FBI trying to designate Spider-Man an enemy of the state.
I'm not.
I know, but 2 WMDs went off on American soil. This is a fire that's not going out on its own. Help me throw some water on it.
What do you need?
Captain America tells Peter to suit up and come with him. The Star-Spangled Avenger promises no harm will come to the wall crawler. He has Steve Rogers' word. Peter's almost convinced until he hears a few words that ask him to give Cap something he doesn't have right now. Time. And at that moment, Peter knew what he had to do. He surprises Captain America with a punch that connects right to the shield-wielding Avenger's jaw. Still, Steve Rogers maintains his composure.
I know that look, Peter. You're a soldier going through it.
And with a single stroke of his hand, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, has managed to whisk away Captain America's signature weapon before driving it right back into the man's face. Steve recovers and is just about ready to fight. But when he peeks from behind his shield, he's surprised to find that Peter is nowhere to be found. Sometime later in the middle of a busy street, Peter ponders on the decisions he has just made. He knew Cap was just trying to help, but there's no way he can let MJ spend one more second trapped in that other world. He thinks he might be out of places to hide. So in one final act of desperation, Peter decides to do something he thought he would never even consider in any other circumstance. He breaks into the Oscorp building, walks to Norman Osborn's lab, and there he asks for his arch-enemy's help.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more comic book stories, and thanks for watching.